Good day, and thank you for joining Black Agenda Report. I'm Margaret Kimberly. Our guest on this segment is Daryle Lamont Jenkins of the One People's Project. The One People's Project seeks to combat right-wing, white supremacist groups and individuals by exposing their threat to the country and the world. Daryle's work can also be seen on idavox.com and on YouTube. And Daryle Lamont Jenkins joins us from New Brunswick, New Jersey, to discuss the group Patriot Front. Patriot Front recently marched in Washington, D.C. on July 4th and very famously traveled via public transportation with their faces covered. They always travel in masks. Who are the Patriot Front, and why should we be concerned about their public presence? Daryle Lamont Jenkins will provide us with analysis. Thank you for joining me.
Good to be here to talk about this group, and especially when you look at how the right is basically trying to do damage control in the wake of all the conversation about this group. So yeah, we need to talk about them and who they are. So
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. It's been a while. So Patriot Front, did they not emerge after the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017? Is that where
absolutely.
they began?
Yes, they did. They immediately after, it seems. There was a group called Vanguard America that was really prominent in the what do they call it? The Unite the Right, the Unite the Right rally. That's what Charlottesville was. And they were prominent. And they got tired of all the bad press that came with all their activities there, including the fact that one of the people that marched with them that day was James Fields, who killed Heather Heyer when he drove his car into a crew of people on that day. So he was actually with them that day when he did that. So after all the fallout that Charlottesville generated for the right and for the Nazis in particular, this group comes up. And basically, it's run by a kid named Thomas Rousseau. He's out of Texas. And he had control of the Vanguard America website and their Discord servers and all of that. He took them to create this new group called Patriot Front, which is basically means that they've been around for about 10 years now. It's been 10 years. So in the course of that time, they have gotten themselves a little bit of notoriety, mostly because we would see their stickers or banner drops from time to time. But every now and again, they will have their little marches, which are basically flash mobs. They don't really announce that they're coming out to march. They will never do that. They almost never do that. It's a tactic that a lot of neo-Nazi groups have adopted after Charlottesville, because they realized that whenever they announced after Charlottesville, they realized they generate a lot of opposition, and they don't want the opposition. So they will just have a flash mob that comes out of nowhere to have their march for about 20 minutes and then leave. That's basically what groups do this time in these days, and been doing for the past 10 years. And basically, Patriot Front has more or less ran with it over these 10 years. So
and they're known for And I suppose this is also the impact of Charlottesville, where there were people, almost all men in these groups who were identified. Some of them were lost their jobs. All sorts of things happened. And one of the changes they made, Patriot Front made, is for them to be masked. They're wear white cloth.
But even with that, I mean, for example, just this year, we was able to, rather Antifa has been able to identify people like Joshua Burkow, who was a musician, or rather, no, he stepped down from a group, from the Green Advisory Board in Irving, Texas. He was actually on the board. When they found out that he was a member of Patriot Front, he had to step down. There was another person by the later on this year, or rather the same month actually, back in January, there was Chris Rosati, who was a member of a band called a metal band called Death Ray Vision, and we exposed them. And this goes on and on and on. But like I said, they are concerned because they do have, many of them do have professional standing in their world, in their day-to-day, and that's a concern. That is a concern. So yeah, we can understand why they would want to keep people from knowing who they are. Well, let's just say straight out that they are, in fact, fascists. We start right there. I mean, even they even have the fasces incorporated in their flags and in their symbols. So they make no bones about that. But basically, what they tell you that they believe in maintaining a white-centered ideology. That's primarily what it is. They believe in closed borders. They believe that I guess you could say that they're just basically anyone. That they have always been the same kind of groups that we have always fought. And all you got it, and basically, there's nothing different than any other fascist group that we have dealt with in the past. And Thomas Rizzo, normally when they have their marches and such, he gives a speech and he talks about how and tries to encourage whites to join them in a fight that, in truth, they don't necessarily fight. I mean, you never really see them in any kinds of real fights, except for, I mean, every now and again you see them in a battle here and there. But for the most part, you see them trying to encourage others to engage in some sort of race war or such.
They were known, as you said, they operate via flash mob. They Correct. Don't announce themselves, they just show up. And I know in the past they showed up in U-Haul trucks. So they would pile out of U-Haul trucks and arrive at a march.
Or Penske trucks.
Penske's truck, yes, rented trucks, regardless of brand. And this time, actually, it's not the first time. They took there are many photos of them taking the Washington, D.C. metro system. There's the famous photos now of Black people, other people who aren't white, sitting there as these white supremacists crowd onto a train. So they want to be, as you said, they don't announce themselves, but at the same time, they want their presence to be known. Right. What does that tell you about them and about who they hope to attract?
Well, see, one of the things to remember about this group that only thing that they're really about is propaganda. That's the only thing you really see coming from them. You see them on the train, or you see them coming out of their U-Haul trucks. They probably had parked somewhere at a metro, unloaded, got on the train because they couldn't drive into the city, especially not on the 4th of July, and basically just kept them and basically stayed on their best behavior while they were on the train. That's why we have that famous photograph right now. But normally, like you said, they like to drive up in a U-Haul or a Penske, come pouring out and to start marching, throw a few. Sometimes they will throw smoke bombs and to try to basically their theatrics and such, and angry and make people angry, and then they say a few words, and then they jump back into their U-Hauls or go back on the train, and completely with protection from the police. And it's only like for about 20 minutes or so. I will say, however, it doesn't always work out for them because on the 4th of July in 21, they thought that they can do this in Philly, and the people came out and told them to leave. They were ran out of Philly when they pulled this stunt. In fact, before they left town, they were detained by the police after they were being chased by people that day. And bear in mind, I'm not talking about activists or Antifa coming after them in Philly. It's just straight up people who just saw them coming out of their Penske trucks and handle things. The following year, they tried to crash a Pride Fest in Idaho. And that's the biggest story that they generated, because what happened was the police got a tip that they was going to try to crash the Pride Fest. And when they came driving up to the park, the police pulled them out of the vehicle, out of the U-Haul, and arrested all of them, unmasked them all. And there were like 31 of them. And I was actually there for that one. I was there. It was the first time I was in Idaho. Did not expect them to be there. And it really just, for everybody that was there, it made their day to see them get arrested. And about a month later, they ended up in Boston. That's now we're talking about 4th of July of 2022. There, they attacked a black man while they were marching. And he sued them for attacking him. And now they have a $2.7 million judgment against them that they have to pay to this brother. And you want to know why they were on their best behavior on Saturday? Because they knew that people were watching them. They were not going to play any games.
And obviously, they attracted a lot of attention. This was Trump was having, what did he call it? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name. His 250th state fair, or
the 250th. It's supposed to be the great. The fact that we can't say off the top of our head shows you just how little of an impact this weekend had on us as a people. So that's good. But yeah, they tried to be a part of all of that. They tried to, and we knew that there was going to be coming to some sort of thing that involves patriotism. That's one of the things about Patriot Front. Anything that has some sort of patriotic vibe to it, they're going to try to rally. I mean, that's how come they are in DC, they were in Philly, well, not anymore, and Boston. Now, this is really the second time that they have been in DC this year. Early in the year, they was at the March for Life rally. And just like we're talking about, they did the metro. One of them got detained because he tried to jump the the turnstile, and we don't know his name. The police won't give his name or anything like that. They just let him go, unlike what they would do if it was us. But the whole thing, remember, it's always going to be visuals that they're concerned about. It will always be that.
I just looked it up. Great American State Fair, which, hardly anybody went to, and they had the bad fortune of holding it when there was a heat dome over the Northeast, and
indeed,
nobody was going out into.
And if it was no sun, it would be rain. I mean, it was just unfortunate for the attendees.
But you brought up an important issue that often they get police protection. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes when there are demonstrations, there may be counter protesters and police separate them, but they get like police escorts. Tell us, which seems strange to me. Well, it says a lot about the police too, but what are your thoughts about that?
At this point, I am not surprised. I mean, we both have been doing this for over 30 years, and whether they are marching in the streets or if they're standing on some courthouse steps, they're going to get that protection. And it makes it easier for the police with them that they are rather clandestine with their marches, so that way there isn't a organized opposition that the police are really concerned about. The only people that really go after Patriot Front when they have these events is simply the folks that are there at the time. And sometimes they'll get those activists, especially in DC, that will give them what for. But as far as the police are concerned, it makes their job easier. And that's the thing. You have to wonder why they are protecting them so hard. I mean, yeah, you could say that you're trying to protect their free speech, but the rest of us keep losing ours. So we have to ask, what exactly are they protecting? I mean, bear in mind, in Tennessee, there is a conference called the American Renaissance Conference. I think I've spoken to you about this in the past. They do security for that particular event, or they did a couple of years ago. And when you look and see how Tennessee's police protects that event, it's kind of like you kind of wonder what exactly is going on here, especially considering in recent years, Patriot Front has been basically trying to build some sort of headquarters in the state. So bear in mind, keep an eye on what it is, what kind of relationship that Patriot Front has with your local police. I mean, only reason why Idaho locked them up en masse is because there was too many eyes on the state because of the Pride Fest, and these guys showed up. So they couldn't risk anybody questioning their tactics dealing with them that time. This time, not so much.
Well, it tells us something about the nature of policing, doesn't it? That they are protective of these overt white supremacists. So that's what I think. It's sort of, surprising, not surprising.
No, it's not surprising at all. I mean, I can't even. It's gotten to the point with me that I just recognize it as a occupational hazard when it comes to dealing with that crowd. Who I think we really need to concern ourselves about as well, however, are the right, the conservatives, the MAGAs out there, who all of a sudden felt that it was a need to defend this group online. Trying to, in fact, one of the things that doing is that taking the picture of the Black woman that that they were surrounding in the metro, and tried to suggest that she was probably safer than they were trying to compare it to the white woman, the Ukrainian woman who was killed by a sketch of a Black man in where was it, in Charlotte, North Carolina. They were trying to compare the two pictures, and basically they was trying to paint Patriot Front. I'm talking about MAGA this time. MAGA is trying to paint Patriot Front in a good light, and somehow started attacking the Black woman that was in the picture, who was not doing anything to anyone. And now they're trying to demonize her when all she did was be in the picture. And this is important. Basically, what they're doing, what MAGA is doing, is telling on themselves, number one, but number two, making the argument for Patriot Front's arguments for them about Black criminals and all the whole thing that they spew about that, and how great and how powerful, how respectable Patriot Front might be, or something like that. When you see that kind of how should I say, when you see that kind of activity online, that's what's going on. That's going on. They don't want to be called racist, but yet they keep defending racists.
Well, you know, they I'm of two minds about giving attention to. We should give attention to Patriot Front, but they represent millions of other people who may not be members or want to march with them. You just mentioned Trump supporters defending them, demonizing this poor lady who's just sitting there minding her own business and ends up in a sea of white supremacists. And then people want to make her an icon, and other people say she's got a criminal record. And I said, well, that was quick, you know, using
I noticed that
photo to try to find some negative information about her.
She didn't do anything to anyone.
Of course not. Well,
no, I mean,
listen, existing while Black, right?
That's really, that's what it was.
And I want to say this: it's the fact that Patriot Front, even though it's flash mobs and it's very brief, they seem to be getting bolder and bolder, having more and more comfort that their views will be accepted, that they'll be protected by the police, that by they MAGA. Can show up. I'm sorry?
By MAGA, by Trump supporters, who, by the way, has not condemned them. They won't condemn them. If you notice, there's no.
Well, of course. Well, you know, I'm thinking back to the Unite the Right rally, and Trump famously said they're very fine people on both sides. Excuse me. So they're, you know, Trump's very fine people. And as the administration, the Trump administration, becomes more open in its racism through immigration, basically trying to undo even legal immigration, what they call DEI. I don't want to say it's DEI. Any mention of Black people, any mention of Black history to erase. The voting rights, I know the Supreme Court did that, but those are the conservatives on the court undoing 60, well, they've been at it for some years, but finally putting the nail in the coffin of protecting voting rights. And all of these things make it easier for the Patriot Fronts of the world to become more and more open in their activities, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, especially if they're mass and they're able to go about their day to day. That's one of the reasons why I say everyone who's listening to this has to pass this on to those who haven't heard this yet. Because in truth, Yeah, they might be getting bolder. Now we have to get bolder. We can't just keep reacting whenever they or any other racist group decides to have a flash mob and just and march in the streets and then go away. We got to stop doing that. We know who these people are. Like I said, these guys have been doxxed to death, and we can always find them. I mean, we have some of them who are themselves criminals. I mean, either because they had child porn, they found that on one of the phones on in Idaho. They have some of them are drug dealers, and some of them are just straight up professional people, as I noted before. And our attitude is that we have to just basically go through the information that we have about these groups, or rather their members, and start scrutinizing anybody that has anything to do with these members in their day to day. We also have to start following how they operate, because we know when the events that they like to go to. They showed up. This is the second year that they showed up at the March for Life rally. 2 years in a row. They might be there next year. We should be prepared for that. We should prepare for opposing them if they do show up. Granted, it's the March for Life, so we probably will be there to oppose it in the first place. But I think we really have to make an effort to come out on that very, very cold day. Let's just be real. I understand that, but if they show up, we got to show up. I was an anti racist action, and that was our line. We go where they go. We know that they go to those rallies. We know that they like January 4th. So be prepared wherever they try to show up next year. That might be Philly, might be Boston, but considering what those towns did to them recently, it might be DC next year, especially with all the breasts that they got this year. So we just have to show that we can have an opposition that will surpass anything that they do in the near future. And if you see their stickers, posted anywhere in your neighborhood, take them down before the press sees them. Because then they'll just talk about them like they're the biggest threat in the world. They are not the biggest threat to us, because they are afraid of us. That's why they do flash mobs. Give them something even more to be afraid of. That's my thinking.
Well, you raise an interesting question about not being reactive. Mm-hmm. The left, I mean, that's a very broad spectrum of people, from everything from people who are like yourself dedicated to opposing and exposing these white supremacist groups, to socialists of various kinds, all sorts of people who could be roughly called the left. We're a bit fragmented now. I think that's part of the issue. There is no one organization that can be identified as protecting the rights of Black people. But if you put all of those groups together, the immigrant organizations, all the groups who would be opposed to Patriot Front, we don't coalesce. We don't. Do we do anything comparable to make ourselves public as a group and as groups?
We used to. And I think, what I think, honestly, we're more of doing people. And whenever our communities need something, that's what we focus our efforts to. We don't really focus on trying to push back the opposition all that much, because unless they come directly at us. I mean, like whenever they kill one of us with their cops or something like that, you'll see that. But when it is, I guess we try to choose our battles. And if our people are hurting when it comes to their education or their needs of food or what have you, that's going to take priority. And I think really that's what that is. But I grew up in the suburbs, a black suburb, and I have the time. I have the time to deal with these characters because I am pretty much good with my life, and I can put my time in to help people in my community and protect them from this element that we deal with, have been dealing with for over 400 years. Um, so so at least the one thing I would say is that if you are not, if you can't focus on the opposition as much as well as often as I can, there are those out there that you can that can, and just if you see an issue, let those folks know, and they will see whether or not they can make things happen. The other thing is when those same individuals like myself or others see the opposition building up to try to come at us, we got to sound the alarm and start making sure that people know that we may have to do something in the immediate. I mean, I take a look at what happened in here in Jersey. Are you familiar with the neo-Nazi metal show that was supposed to happen here in Jersey? I'm responsible for sounding that alarm. I put that out there so people know what was going on. And I simply and we was able to not shut it down. Unfortunately, they went to a VFW in Bloomfield, Jersey, but we caused them some enough heat so that people will know that if this group comes around again, they will not be welcome in our community. We gave the community that information to make sure that they can fight the way they need to fight. That's what's important. That is what's important. I would simply just say, trust in the people. Just give them my job is to make sure that folks get the information. People will do with it what they can. And most importantly, they will do something with the information, even if we don't even see them doing it. Like I said, trust the people.
Yeah. I think that many people are ready. I'm remembering what happened in Ohio last year. White supremacist organization tried to demonstrate in Lincoln Heights, Ohio, mostly black town near Cincinnati. And people came out with guns to defend themselves and to defend their town.
Yes, they did.
And it's a place I had not heard of before, and I was born in Ohio. But at any rate, before or since, but it was an example of how to oppose it. Ohio's an open carry state, so everything they did was perfectly legal. But there doesn't seem to be enough of that spirit around the country. And I'm going to take that back a little. I'm going to take it back a little because we saw in Minnesota when ICE killed two people, we saw huge demonstrations. So there is a desire to have a political impact.
Delaney.
I'm sorry?
Delaney as well.
Delaney Hall.
Yeah. Definitely will see that. I would say about Lincoln Heights, though, I would say that that's a case of the Nazis going to them, and they said, okay, let's do this.
Yeah. Delaney Hall is the immigration jail. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Delaney immigration jail in New Jersey. There have been countless protests, but it seems to be very diffuse. So people respond in Minnesota, people respond in Lincoln Heights, people respond at Delaney Hall, but a unity of left groups seems to be lacking. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it started, there was a lot of activity. I think that in recent weeks, there has been an attempt to make it harder for us to be out there. And that's unfortunate. But we are still out there. So anybody who can, but they still need bodies out there. Do not, I mean, they are maintaining a vigil because we have to. Um, and eventually we will win. We will win on that front. But but that's the thing, and the reason why I mentioned the whole thing about the Nazis went to Lincoln Heights, and that's when they got that opposition. Sometimes you just you can't wait for that. Sometimes you got to go to the problem. And again, if you are able to, um, do so. If you're not, make sure that people who can have the information. That's really what we got to do. But the bottom line is, honestly, I mean, I have faith in us as a people. You know, we have we know how to fight. That's why they wear masks in Chocolate City on the metro. They know we know how to do this.
Well, it's like you raise an important point about Washington. Excuse me, it was Chocolate City, a majority Black, almost 70% Black city. It's now less than half. There was a time when they would not have dared to show up in Washington in a group masked or unmasked, but this dilution of Black people has a lot of different consequences, and one of them is that this racist group would feel free to show up on public transportation in Washington, D.C. But I as we close, I want to and get your thoughts about this. The current mayor of Washington is Black. A large number of city council members are Black. But they always talk about youth crime and youth curfews and fare beating and all sorts of angst about Black people in public, especially young Black people. But they have been very quiet about a group of white supremacists making their presence felt. What are surprise visit or no? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, if you notice, we've been talking for about 30 minutes, a little more. Not once did we mention the politicians. We really didn't. We talked about the folks that are on the streets, whether they are us or MAGA. I think the strength and always will um, reside with the people. Our politicians, our elected officials, are in another world where they're the only ones that matter. And that's annoying to a lot of people. I think that's one of the reasons why the DSA candidate, for what it's worth, won that one race recently. I mean, baby steps as far as I'm concerned. But the bottom line is, my my thinking is that don't look towards the politicians or the elected officials to be your savior. You are your savior. Your people are your savior. You want results? Go out there and get them. We'll deal with the government in some fashion as we go along. And the stronger you are in the streets, the stronger you will be in those halls. And I think really, you got to keep that in the forefront of your mind. If we want representation, whether it's in those halls or in those streets, we got to be that representation. That's just it.
Well, thank you so much, Daryle. It's a pleasure to have you back. And that's Daryle Lamont Jenkins of the One People's Project and idavox.com, discussing the recent Patriot Front march in Washington, D.C., and white supremacist groups in general. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I appreciate it.